The Nathan, Nat and Sean podcast.
One of the things that a lot of women out there and men aspire to is having a luxury bag.
Yep.
But they're
so expensive,
and thousands and thousands of dollars. And I've always thought, is it worth it? Well, we've got a guy that's joining us right now who does something that would make most women and men that want these bags scream in pain. He rips them apart to tell us if they are well made or well worth the money or not.
He's a truth teller.
Joins us right now. Hello, Vulcan.
Hello.
Oh,
Hello. So
mate.
Thanks for
your
having me here.
account's Tanner Leatherstein, and you basically rip these luxury bags apart. I mean, it's a bit devastating to see it happen. Do you feel bad when you're ripping them apart?
Well, initially I was feeling a little bit bad, and I keep seeing these comments in the posts. People say, well, I was literally crying or screaming as you were
Yes.
cutting it. But I think I got used to it now, unless it is something that I really like, it's extreme value I find in it. It doesn't feel bad to cut it open at this time. I become numb to it.
Well, Vulcan, you've got some big labels that you're
Yes.
doing this to. I guess first question, do you pay for these yourself? Because that's expensive
Yes,
stuff
indeed.
you're ripping apart.
Yes, that's true. And I was kind of worried about the financial impacts of this project as well recently. But, I started to see it as building an audience on the social media. It's a cost. It's an investment. That's how I'm looking at it. I'm not making money off of it directly yet.
Yep.
But let's see what happens in the future.
I have to tell you, one of my very, very, very good friends is sick for these products, to the point where when him and his wife go into the store, they're taken into the private room.
Oh.
That's how much they spend here.
Yep.
And I told him about the Louis Vuitton and what you found out about that. And it's actually made him second guess and second think about spending so much money. So can you tell us about what you've taken apart from Louis Vuitton and how much money it has actually gone into it, and how much labour costs have gone into it, and what it's being sold for?
So I have done a bunch of Louis Vuitton things. One was a very typical briefcase made with their coated canvas, not even leather.
Yes.
And that was about like a $1,700 bag. That was the first project I did when I came up with this idea. So even if that bag was made in leather, my estimate was around like $170 to $200,
Whoa.
including leather and labor. So I'm not accounting for any other costs, right?
Yeah.
And again, the idea was to help people understand the quality of the leather and, complexity of the construction, because sometimes people automatically assume it's so expensive, it must be because of
good.
leather.
Quality.
It's
Yeah.
it must be really good. And because leather is a luxury item, probably that's why it costs so much. Well, that's not true. Leather is not cheap, but not that expensive either. So whatever you're paying for on those brands is the prestige and the status engineered around the product. And leather is a good item to engineer a luxury around it. So that's what I'm trying to show here.
It's brilliant marketing, isn't it? That's the thing that's selling
Yes.
us. But Vulcan, on that, what's the most expensive thing that you've pulled apart, Brandon, and how much would it be really worth?
The most expensive bag was, I think, Bottega so far.
Yep.
$2,500, an Arco Mini tote or handbag.
Yeah.
And that was around like $250. If I'm not wrong, remembering the leather and labor cost,
Yep.
I came up for that. And, I shouldn't be too far off. I have my own leather brand. I do these things, and I kind of have an understanding of the labor costs and the leather costs in these countries they make these bags in.
Sure.
So it's usually like 10 to 20 times of what I find in leather labor is the price tag you're paying on the high-end luxury.
Yes.
And I have a Louis Vuitton never full tote that I'm going to cut in this week or next week. That's going to be the most expensive one so far.
How much?
$3,000.
How much?
$3,000.
Okay.
And is that $3,000 US dollars?
Yeah, you're talking US dollars, yeah?
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
My next question is there anything that you found to actually be close to worth what's the best value?
So if you're looking for the prestige, high-end
Yes.
luxury labels, leather is not worth that price.
Yeah, right. So none
it's
of them are
never
worth it.
going to.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Because the price reflects the prestige that comes with the brand. And some people want it, they
Yes.
need it, and that's why those big brands become who they
Yes,
are
it's
right
about
now.
the
They're
logo.
serving
Yeah.
Exactly. But if you really want something worth it, I started to discover there's so many new companies coming into the space because of this opportunity. There was a brand from France, again, called Pauline or Polan. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Polene. And they make their products in Spain. I took one of their bags. It was around $470 or $450 US. And I took it apart. I don't think it was anything less than the quality of leather or craftsmanship, less than those high-end brands. And that was very logically priced because the cost is about $150, $170 to make that bag.
Yes.
And now it's 3 times as a very reasonable, sustainable business margin. And that was like, I really appreciate what they're doing. If you're not into those status brands, this might be a great option. And there's much, much more new brands coming in. And we're exploring more and more every day here.
They're nice bags too. I'm looking at them now.
I
They're
have
lovely.
to tell you, Vulcan, there's another trend that I think is still going in the high-end bag world. And my mate's wife has bought one of these bags, and they're the tiny little versions of designer bags where you can barely, I think,
Can't fit a key.
cell phone in it. And the price tag for those are $800 or more.
Oh, my God.
And I always say, you are such an idiot because they've just picked up some leather off the ground and said, what are we going to do with this? I know, let's make tiny bags and sell them to naive people.
Suckers.
With those tiny bags, like, and you know the ones I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, I
an
do.
estimate. How much would that cost them, if anything? Because it possibly is just scrap they're going to throw away. How much would that cost to make?
Well, it will depend on the bag, but I know what you're talking about. They're super miniature
Yes.
of their regular
Yes.
designs, and leather cost is going to be significantly ignorable there. But again, you're going to go through that craftsmanship. Probably that will cost a while. You still need to put together the same techniques and complexity, but they're not going to cost you anything more than, $80, $90, or $100 for those little bags. And those are money makers, right?
Yes.
For the brands. Those are cute little things. No function. People just carry it around to, yeah.
There's no function.
Or some of them you can't even get a phone in.
I know. This
it's
is a
crazy.
hair one. You can't even fit a phone in.
Yeah.
What is it for?
Hey, Vulcan, we're seeing all these brands that we're talking about, and I think that I hope women are listening to this. Cause, I mean, will it?
Yeah,
will it
I've
change?
never
Will it
been.
change?
I've never been a
Amen.
luxury
Yep,
bag
absolutely no.
person,
Yeah.
and
But-
now I'm happy about that.
Are these people coming for you? You're getting knocks at the door
Yeah.
where you've got to, hide behind a curtain stuff because these big brands have got a lot of money behind them.
No, I haven't heard from any of these big brands. I heard from those smaller brands. They really appreciate recognizing what they're trying to do.
Yep.
And they thanked me and they wanted to sign more products for review. But I haven't heard from the big ones. And here, I'm not hating these brands and I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm just putting some behind the scenes facts that wasn't available before so people can make better decisions when they're buying for it. I respect those brands. They built in an amazing engineered status and prestige, and it's a huge service. Some people really seek this, and if that's what you're after, it's absolutely worth it because nobody else can sell you that. I don't have that. I can't sell you that. But what I can give you, if you don't care about the status, I can make a really good bag and give it to you for a fair price. And there's a lot of craftsmen and new brands coming into the space to do that as well these days.
We are going to get murdered by Louis and Vuitton.
And Chloe's going to hold the gun.
Oh, no doubt.
Chloe's going to hold the gun. But Birkin bags. We all know about Birkin bags. They're like, probably minimum $300,000, which is absolutely... You'll never probably buy a
You're not
Birkin
gonna
bag
know.
to rip one apart, and you'll have to be invited
Yeah.
to buy those bags as well, Sean.
Yeah.
Are we thinking that just from your knowledge of those bags that we're talking about the same sort of money and craftsmanship and labour costs that go into one of them as well?
Exactly. So if you go to my channels, there is some discussions with some craftsmen who does this stuff, who worked at Hermes before.
Yes.
Got pretty good insights last week. We published some videos. And Birkin, let's say the regular leathers, the cowhide leather versions may start from 20, 30 grand. I don't even know where you can find the price because as you said, You can't even go buy one. You have to play all these games to be shown one first, and then get the privilege to get the bag. But if you do, that bag is mostly hand stitched and probably takes about 20 hours or so for a craftsman to finish.
Yeah.
So it's a slightly different cost structure there. The leather they use, Hermes, they have their own tanneries. Actually, they sell the leather outside too. A famous leather called Togo. That's what they mostly use for Birkins and Kellys. So if you use 10 square foot of that, that is the most expensive leather in the cowhide world I've ever seen.
Yes.
Probably it's going to cost you about $150, $200 for the leather.
Yep.
And the labor would be somewhere between $400 or $500 maybe.
You're
Right.
kidding?
It's quite a markup, isn't it?
300 grand.
Because I just discovered that a monthly salary for a person who's making these bags at Hermes was 1,700 euros per month. I was expecting much more. So
course.
the craftsman doesn't get that well paid either. So it's nothing more than $1,000 to make one of those bags, in my very generous estimate.
Now,
Generous.
to the rank amateur, how do we tell good leather from average leather? Like if we were, in a market somewhere in Florence, say, and there's, leather bags everywhere as far as you can see, how do I pick a good one versus one that's not so good?
Because from what I've seen you say, the patina, that's the finish that's over top of a leather, that sort of masks
the
what
quality.
you're getting.
Yeah, how do we know?
Right. So there's basically, in general, two types of leather. I can simplify it for the audience. One is standardized leathers, which has a little bit heavier makeup on it, if you will, to achieve this color consistency and close the imperfections. So usually the big brands use this because they need to show the same item all over the world. And that's the leather, that's not too special. It's readily available. We can make a lot of it, and big brands use it. But to me, in my personal opinion, I've spent my entire life in the tanneries. I love that truly authentically beautiful leathers, which has super minimum makeup, super little finishes, which develops that patina. It gets into darker and shinier shades as you use them. They scratch, they get dirty with watermarks and all that stuff. That's truly artisanal leather. And they always have those variances, the wane marks, the bite marks. If you see those patterned look that's coming from nature, you're looking at one of those naturally beautiful leathers that's going to age, veer in as you use it. It's going to become a beautiful piece. But if you're looking at one of the mass manufactured items with heavier finishes, you will usually see a lot of repeating patterns, man-made embossing plates, and it will start looking pretty good. It will stay that way for a while. There is advantages to it as well. It's going to be easier to clean. It's not going to scratch as much. But eventually, the top layer is plastic, and it's going to start, scuffing off and crackling, and it's going to get weird out. So that heavily finished leathers wears out.
Yeah.
The artisanal leathers wears in, and usually you feel it as soon as you look and touch to those leathers.
All right,
I tell you
good to
what,
know.
knockoffs these days
Well,
are so close.
don't you think you might as well
So
just
what's
buy a
the point?
knockoff?
Yes.
Because what's the point, Nate?
Should you just buy a knockoff? What do you think?
Well, I am extremely opposed to the idea of fakes because
Okay.
of regardless what brand it is. I get a lot of questions. Can you get one of the knockoffs and then compare it in your videos?
Yep.
I'm not going to entertain the idea because personally I'm against the idea.
Yep.
I'm no one here to judge. If you want to get the knockoffs, absolutely. And I know there are knockoffs sometimes even better than the real thing. I was thinking, talking with one of the fellow artisans the other day, and he has been in this business, secondhand luxury brand business for a long time. And now he makes bags probably better than Hermes.
Oh.
And he said, sometimes I was recognizing the fakes because it's way too good. Like the person went above and beyond. It's much better than the Hermes. I know it's not Hermes. It was one of the fake ones. So I rejected them back in the day. So these things happen, but you cannot generalize since the knockoffs are made by people, different people, and they have varying degrees of quality understandings.
Okay, well, let's get rid of the knockoffs then. What's your brand and how can people buy it?
My brand is called Pegai, Pegai, Pegai.com. It's plural Pegasus. And we're online. You can check what we do. I love to use those minimally finished leathers. I don't have the standardized leathers as everybody else doing it. So I'm trying to make something slightly different and apply to these sophisticated designs you find it in the big brands. And hopefully make it more accessible so more people can enjoy leather in its most authentic form. That's the mission of my brand.
Well, I have to
Vulcan.
say,
Beautiful.
you know
Good
what?
chat, man.
Really great to talk to you before Gucci throws you off a cliff.
If you go missing, we'll know what's happened.
Oh, that's a lot there. I wonder how people are thinking about that hearing
Yes.
this conversation.
So many men are going to their women.
I told you!
I told you so!
That's
They're worth
right.
nothing!
You're a man's best friend. Thank you so much for talking to us. TannerLeatherstein.com. We
Yeah.
can check out everything to do. But you're on the socials as
Yeah,
well.
and TikTok.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vulcan.
You're
Thank you,
great,
man.
Vulcan.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
buddy.
guys.
Keep
See ya.
fighting the good fight.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you.
Bye.
Nathan, Nat, and Sean is a Nova podcast. For more great comedy shows like this, head to novapodcasts.com.au. Nova.